And Carla, we're just a couple minutes after start time, so I'm ready to start. I'm ready to begin. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks so much, Russ. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the FGDLA Government Learning and Technology Symposium Series. I'm Carla Elaine. I'm FGDLA's Vice President of the Higher Education Sector and the moderator for today's workshop along with Russ Colbert. FGDLA is a nonprofit or a professional association formed to promote the development and the application of distance learning in the federal government. We actively foster collaboration and understanding among those involved in leveraging technology and instructional media in support of the education and the training needs of the federal government. We invite you to join with us in this exciting field. You'll find membership forms at fgdla.us. For our upcoming events, you want to switch the slide for me, Jenny? The upcoming events we've got on May 15th, we have Chris Kaplan of the U.S. Treasury. He'll be presenting on instructional strategies that are used in training their staff. I think there's 200,000 people there. On June 12th, the U.S. Marines will present on their use of programs to meet security requirements. Dr. Erica Jacobs will lead that presentation. And on July 17th, Dr. Anders Gronstedt will lead a webinar with the Navy about VR training for Navy submariners. We hope you'll join us for all of these special online events.
Carla?
Proud. Yes, go ahead,
Go
Russ.
Navy, go Navy.
Oh, all right. I know you're 150 years with the Navy on a ship someplace. Thank you for your service, Russ. I hate to say that, it's such a cliche now, but we do appreciate everything that you did.
Thank you,
So
Carla.
we wanted to also thank Zoom and Moodle for their participation as sponsors for FGDLA. They have been fabulous. Russ, you want to say something about our sponsors?
Well, thank you, Carla, for that. And we always thank Zoom and Moodle so much for their sponsorship and their involvement. And we have three guests with us today, in addition to the two that you see on the screen. And this is the Adobe team, Adobe and Coso Cloud. And so we have Paul, and we have Rob, and we have Charlie. And they are important because of their dedication to the Adobe platform and the way it runs and the way it provides an increased level of security for the U.S. federal government. Before we move on, could I just have Paul, Rob, and Charlie say hello to the audience today?
Hi, this is Paul Gilbertson. Happy to be here. Thank you for bringing us in on this, and great to learn about more of your mission here at FGDLA.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Schoenberger with Adobe, supporting Department of Defense. And yeah, great to be a participant on, and these, the topic is fantastic. So eager to learn. Thank you.
Absolutely. And my name is Rob Porter. I'm with Coso Cloud. I've been working in L&D in the federal space for a little over 28 years. So happy to be here and see what I can do to help support in any way possible. And look forward to the presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Back to you, Carla.
Okay, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. You got some thumbs up as we were going through there, so you're being welcomed by our audience today. Moodle and Zoom have been outstanding partners for us. They are really the best, and we do appreciate everything that they've done for us. The topic of today's 2-hour certification workshop is Gamified Learning Design using Generative AI. Dr. Jenny Varrichio will guide you through understanding specific workplace needs using AI tools. You can earn AI gamification certification by completing an optional assignment after the workshop. We're so lucky to have Jenny with us. The workshop is largely based on her recent research in instructional design and for gamification. And now, Jenny, finally, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Carla, and welcome everyone. Okay. As Carla mentioned, my name is Dr. Jenny Varrichio, and we'll be discussing gamified learning design using AI, specifically generative AI, to help perform analysis and ideate a design plan for a gamified learning event. This is a virtual workshop, so as you're learning more about gamified learning design and artificial intelligence, you'll have the opportunity to work along with me and help me to create a gamified learning design plan while leveraging generative AI. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to get to know a little bit about all of you as a group. So we're going to do a quick round of bingo, and our goal is to collaboratively get bingo in any direction. It can be vertical, horizontal, diagonal, I don't care, but we just need to get a bingo together. So go ahead and share in the chat some fun facts about yourself that you're seeing on the bingo board. And I'll see if I can add our little token to those facts as we're going about this. Go ahead, take a moment to type in the chat something that you can do. Oh, someone went to a concert. Oh, we are quick. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, really quick, Jenny.
All right, Russ, I'm gonna need your help on this one. As you're seeing it come through.
Breakfast, own a dog, own a pet, finish knitting a hat for a baby, work in an office, work at home, have 5 dogs, have 5 children.
Oh, okay. That's a busy house. Let's see here. All right, got a dog. Oh, we got a juggler.
Yes. Rob Porter can juggle.
That's amazing.
His first job was Circus du Soleil.
Oh, we got scuba diving.
Hope you don't mind a little humor there, Rob.
Absolutely. I think it's a great first job.
Ready to disappear. That's a good magic trick. I can't do. Went to a concert this year. I'll count that as a magic trick. Fed wildlife. Okay. Ooh, I think we have a bingo. Fantastic. Okay, so thank you all for sharing all these fun facts. So our group can juggle. Someone can surf the web. That's great. We have some dog owners. We have working from home. I'm in that boat as well with you. Has a pet or fed a wild animal. Awesome. Would love to know if you want to follow up on that. What wild animal did you feed? I'm just curious.
Well, so I live in north of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in the middle of nowhere, about a mile from a paved road, and we have moose and deer that we feed on a pretty regular basis, plus all the little critters periodically. So
That's really nice.
Yeah, that sure beats the squirrels and birds that we feed here. But,
my wife gets concerned in the winter that they don't have enough food, so we make sure that they're all taken care of.
That's very kind. Awesome. Well, what an interesting group. This is great. Thanks again for sharing, and congratulations to us for getting bingo. All right, let's take a look at our agenda for today. Get this to move over. There we go. So we're going to start off by talking about gamified learning and what all that entails. We'll also look at some examples of gamified learning, so you'll have a chance to recognize it and see how prevalent the game-based gamification can be out in the world today. And then we'll talk a bit about generative AI and the different ways it can be used as a tool in learning design, as well as how we'll use it for learning design today. And that takes me to some of our last sections, where we're going to start constructing a gamified learning event plan using generative AI to plan everything out. This part will be the workshop, and I'm not sure how things are going to end up looking at the end of the webinar, which is pretty exciting, because you're going to help me construct this gamified learning design plan today. So more on that later. And then we're also going to be looking at some ethical considerations when using AI, just to keep things in mind, make sure that you're staying aligned to your organization, some tools to do that. And then we'll take a look at our optional certification assignment, where you have the opportunity to add to your professional portfolio, get some practice under your belt if you like, and demonstrate what you learned today. So let's kick things off with talking about gamified learning. So we're going to start off in this section by talking about the differences between gamification and games-based. Then we're going to define game elements versus game mechanics and discussing how those are both related. And then we'll talk about ways that you can use gamification identification in the world today. And we'll look at some examples of that. And the last piece of this section will be some strategies to keep in mind when implementing gamified learning in your organization. Okay, so that's going to take us to our first piece here. You're going to hear the terms games and gamification a lot through this session. Before I go any further, I do want to help you differentiate between the two, as they can both sit under the same umbrella of gamified learning. They're just two different design approaches. So I'm going to provide this video here. We're going to watch that for a moment. It's about 3 minutes. And this is Carl Kapp. He's an excellent resource if you want to learn more about serious games and games-based learning design. I'm going to go ahead and hit play here.
Lots of people ask me, what's the difference between games and gamification? And while they sound the same, they both have game in them, they're really not the same thing, although there's a lot of overlapping attributes and elements. So let's talk about gamification first, and then we'll talk about game-based learning. So gamification is an umbrella term, basically meaning let's take bits and pieces and parts of games and let's use them in non-game settings. The reason is games have embedded psychological motivators and engagers already in them. So for example, one of the things that motivates people to play games is the sense of progress, right? We move through the game space and we like to see that progress. And in fact, we like to see progress outside of game spaces. So if you're going on a journey, you like to see where you are, where you're going. If you're in your career, you like to see where you're going, your progress. So progress is a driver or a motivator that's in games, and we can take that and use it for gamification. The other thing is gamification doesn't always look like a game. So let me give you an example. A social media company wanted people to complete profiles, part of the social media product. And so what they did is they put a progress bar onto the social media profile, and the more people, the more information that you filled out, the further the progress bar went. That means a gamified element, the progress bar, was used to help drive the activity, which was filling out the social media profile. And this isn't an academic exercise. In fact, the company that did this saw a 30% increase in the number of profile completions. So when you think about gamification, an umbrella term for thinking about psychological elements that drive and engage us, and a lot of those elements are in games, don't think about creating a game. Think about using the elements, bits, and pieces to drive motivation and engagement. Now, if you look at game-based learning, it's different than gamification. Game-based learning is basically an entire system designed around helping you achieve, in this case, a learning goal. So game-based learning is where the activity of playing the game itself teaches the learner what they need to know as they go through the game. So that's really kind of an important thing to think about. Game-based learning has a defined beginning, middle, and end. And to make game-based learning effective, you typically want to have kind of an introduction. This is what I want you to focus on when you look at the game and when you think about playing the game. And then in the middle of the game, you want people, to play the game. And then at the end, you want this debriefing. Gamification typically doesn't have a debriefing, but game-based learning does, because you want to say, okay, let's look at this experience and define that from a learning perspective. You did some things in the game, maybe negotiated, maybe sales skills, maybe learning features and functionality of a product, but now we want to talk about what is the learning outcome. So that's really the difference between gamification, bits, pieces, parts of games, but is not a game itself, and game-based learning, which is a game itself designed to help meet a learning outcome. So that's the difference between gamification and game-based learning.
All right. There we go. Okay, so to recap, share your answer in the chat. True or false, games-based learning is an application of game mechanics in a non-game environment. True or false? You have a moment to answer. Seen a lot of falses come through. Some truths. A lot of falses. I will say the answer is false. So gamification is the application of game mechanics in a non-game environment. So going back, thinking about what he said about that progress bar, for example, when adding a progress bar just randomly to something to get that engagement, it doesn't mean that you're adding an entire game. You're adding a game element that can be a psychological motivator for people to continue to complete something like a LinkedIn profile. So that's false. And then case-based learning, on the contrary, is using an entire game as your learning tool. So there's an entire system. And we're going to talk more about that system of play in a moment here. Okay, nicely done, everybody. Now let's talk about what I just said. Elements, mechanics, what in the world does all that mean? So another thing to take with you is thinking about gamified learning as that system of play. So game mechanics are a set of game elements that are organized to make up that system that you can play. So you can take a look at the images here. You have a game board on the right. There's rules, board, little pieces, lots of colors and dots, and all of that together makes up the mechanics that make up the system of play. And then the elements are just the pieces or the board or the dice. And by themselves, they don't really make up a game, but they can play into the mechanics that make up that system of play. Common game elements that you'll see in learning, gamified learning, especially, are badges, leaderboards, levels, points, other elements like that that can make up a little system of play that may or may not be a part of a game. They may just be gamified elements. So in short, all mechanics have elements, not all elements are mechanics. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I always think the board game is the best way to think about it because we've all played, Monopoly and chess and whatever. So let's take a moment. We're going to watch another video to learn more about gamification out in the world today. And you can take note of the elements that are used and how they're playing into those mechanics. Waiting for this to load here. There we go. That's what I needed.
Gamification has been used effectively over a wide range of different fields, including fitness, education, productivity, and marketing. Let's have a look at a few popular examples from these different areas. In the fitness space, here's one you may have heard of, Fitbit. It's a device that tracks primarily how many steps you take during the day and encourages you to reach a daily step goal. It does this through playful feedback by rewarding users with game-like achievements when they hit certain milestones. Users can also compare their weekly step count to their friends on a leaderboard. Another of my favorite examples of gamification is Duolingo. It makes learning a language easy and fun by giving you engaging language challenges to play. You get experience points every time you practice, and you can compare your points with your friends. It also has a streak feature where you're encouraged to come back and practice every day. It supports a range of different languages, everything from Spanish and French to even Klingon. If you struggle getting through your emails each day, then the email game may be something worth looking at. It connects to your Gmail account and challenges you to reply to your emails as quickly as possible. It measures your speed and gives you points based on your performance. When it comes to examples of gamification in advertising and marketing, there's plenty to choose from. Coca-Cola has had a number of playful marketing campaigns over the past few years. For example, they've made their vending machines more playful, letting people earn a free Coke by hugging the vending machine or pronouncing different phrases. They also had an interactive TV game promotion, where people could download an app and shake it at the right time when watching a Coca-Cola advertisement, as if they were catching prizes from their TV screen. The McDonald's Monopoly partnership is also another great example of gamification in action that many people know and remember. Buy food and drink to collect street names, match them and you can win a prize. It's been incredibly popular and has been run for many years. When we think of a stereotypical gamer, we generally consider a market of mostly young, nerdy males. However, this is far from the truth. The gaming community is a rather large and diverse group. According to the ESA, almost 50% of Americans play games. The average age of a gamer is 35 years old, and 41% are female. But there is a reason for this. With the advancement and integration of technology into our everyday lives, we've seen games evolve to become incredibly accessible and popular over the last decade. These days, we can easily play games anywhere using our mobile devices, and this is a key contributing factor to the popularity and success of gamification. What may surprise you is that according to the Nielsen digital ratings, the biggest group of online gamers in Australia are actually adults aged 55 and over. Surprisingly, these baby boomers make up almost a quarter of Australia's 14.5 million gamers, more than any other age category. One thing we don't often realize is just how much time we spend playing games each day. According to the 2016 Digital Australia report, Australians spend on average 88 minutes a day playing games, which is incredible considering how time-pressured we often feel. Let's briefly mention one game in particular, World of Warcraft. It's a popular game released over a decade ago that people are still playing. What's amazing is just how much time we've spent in this one game. By one analyst's calculation, the 11 million or so registered users have collectively spent 50 billion hours playing this game. This is about 6 million years, which is as much time as we have spent evolving as a species. Needless to say, gamification is now an established industry. There's more and more research happening in the space. You can hire gamification consultants to make your products more engaging. You can even find entire platforms built to help you integrate game elements into your website and apps. These days, it's becoming easier and cheaper to build full-fledged serious games as well, just like Gamified do for advertising games. Join me in this following video. We're going to look at an overview of the game.
There we go. Okay. So after watching that, what are some things that come to mind that you found interesting about those facts and where gamification is today? Is there anything surprising? Feel free to share in the chat. This particular video reminded me of the Domino's app. I don't know how many of you have ordered Domino's recently, but there are all kinds of little trackers. Like, it's actually really fun to order a pizza. 41% of gamers are females. Yeah. Gamers can be everywhere. Age demographics, I always think young males. Totally get that. Yeah. Yeah. How many areas we may not even think of as gamification, like fitness and marketing. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it is used in tons of places. Yeah, those are excellent observations. I don't older people play games. They do in Australia. Yes, yeah, these kinds of things are kind of fun and eye-opening in a way. You'll start noticing gamification is everywhere, especially in marketing and in those spaces. So yeah, have fun exploring and noticing that now. And then when you're taking this with you as a learning and development professional, and you're looking at ways to implement gamified learning in your organization, there's a ton to consider. So placing badges or points in a course isn't going to automatically make it more impactful on its own. It needs to tie to a strategic system of play or even strategic system of learning that you design with the learning goals, the audience, and the outcomes in mind. And just like most things with instructional design, that strategic approach is really important for the success of the implementation. So I'm going to close this section with one more important message from Carl Kapp about what research says about gamification and how that can help with your own decision making in the future when you're looking at implementing gamification in your organization.
I'm often asked about what does the research show about gamification versus traditional instruction? And the interesting thing about that question is it's the wrong question. I don't really think we should be saying, is gamification better than this? Is this better than this? We've seen lots of studies about that. And actually, it turns out that sometimes gamification is good and sometimes it's not so good. In fact, I saw one meta-analysis, which is a study of studies, that looked at 23 studies of gamification for learner performance. It found that 9 of those studies, positive impact, 12 no real difference between traditional and gamification, and 2, actually a negative impact. So why the difference? Why are some really good, some really bad, and some kind of in the middle? Well, it turns out what we should be looking at from a gamification perspective, from a research perspective, is when gamification is effective, what makes it effective? That's really the question we should be asking, and then implementing those effective elements into our gamified solutions. And it turns out other researchers have discovered 3 critical areas that make gamification effective in situations, different situations. So one of the things that they looked at was system quality. So the overall gamification system has to be designed at a quality level, and we'll go into some of those details. The second thing that they found were the learner attributes. It turns out, and this should not be a surprise to anyone, that learners who have had previous experience playing games are more prone to gamification. They tend to do better, so that makes sense. And then the third thing, and this is really critical, is that the gamified systems that were successful matched the affordance of the gamification dynamics, such as progress or awarding of points or achievements, with the desired learning outcomes. They embedded the right gamification into the right outcomes. So they made that match. And that's really, I think, very critical and very important. So let's look at all 3 of those in a little bit more depth. So let's look at the design of the system. The design of the system has to have certain critical or key elements to make sure that the system's effective. And the first, it seems really silly, but it's system quality, right? The functionality has to work every time. It has to be reliable. It has to do its job. So your basic system functionality, very important. Second is the information in the system has to be accurate, relevant, timely. So if you have a gamified system and the information is not accurate or it's not timely, nobody cares. So you have to have that type of element. The next is you have to manage learner expectations. So when you hear the word gamification or I hear the word gamification, we might have different expectations. So as you're launching a gamified solution, you have to set the right expectations. And if you do that, you'll be successful. Another attribute that the system has to have is the system has to have general pickup or social use. So if you have social elements in your gamified solution, but only 2 people join the gamified solution or participate in the gamified solution, you're not really going to have a lot of success in the social aspects. So it's that pickup or getting initial people involved in the system that makes the gamified system effective. So you really need to think about that from a gamification implementation perspective. So those system elements, and finally, the last element is the overall look and feel. It has to feel like it is enjoyable to the users. Some users, for example, I always say if you're working with engineers, you don't want to be too fanciful or too crazy. But if you're working with creatives, you can take a little bit more liberty. So the feel of the system to the users has to feel right, if you will. And you need to know that through the culture of the organization that you're implementing the gamified solution. And some of that comes, as I said before, with managing those expectations. So that's the system elements. The user elements, as I said before, is you have to be familiar with games. That helps. So you're like, well, an organization, people aren't familiar. What do I do? Well, one of the things we've done in some organizations is done Free Time Friday. So we've said, okay, every Friday for 1 hour or for half an hour, you get to play games. And we do that before we implemented gamification. And when we implemented it, people were used to it and comfortable with it and knew what to expect. So Free Time Friday is a good technique to use if you want to help people get comfortable with gamification. The other thing about the users is the research has found that the users who participated in the design of the system or gave input into the design of the system actually were more happy with the system once it was implemented. So give users a time to do that and they'll be more comfortable with the system. And then the third element is actually matching the game affordances, gamification bits and pieces. You take the right piece, for example, maybe race to the finish if you're in an environment where you have to do things quickly. If you're in an environment where accuracy is important, you've got to match a gamified element like accuracy to what the learner does in the system. Otherwise, they'll be incongruent and it won't make sense. Well, you want me to do everything fast, but on my job, you want it to be accurate. So I don't understand this difference between, you know, the forcing of speed when really accuracy is more important. So you have to match them together. And if you do that, you'll have a good gamified solution. So the research shows adding those three elements together, system design, considerations of the user, and matching the affordances will help you be successful in your gamification.
There we go. Okay. Oh,
Jenny, could I ask you a question on that with the research? If I can interrupt you for a moment.
no problem.
Because one of the things he said was that it was important to have other people playing at the same time. Yet, I mean, so much with gaming, people are playing alone or solitaire or so forth. And is there a problem in setting up a game where it's just an isolated one person doing the game?
No, I think it's very subjective. And the research has found it's really about matching whatever game or solution for learning that you're making to your audience. So if there is something where there's a collaboration component that needs to be enforced, then that would be maybe something to think about for the design, to have it be more of that collaborative play. But if the asynchronous component is a nice fit for the learner audience, then that might be a direction to play with. And then on top of that, ongoing prototyping and testing is going to be super important as well, just to make sure that the efficiency metrics are matching up to what you're expecting to happen.
Okay.
That
I
help?
also like the idea, the remark you made at the end, where the people are involved in producing or creating the game, that they're more interested in it. The other thing that he mentioned was that there's no significant difference. So when we first started doing distance learning and using technology for learning, we looked at no significant difference, and we kept coming up with places and a lot of research to the point where there's actually a site that's no significant difference. I never can remember whether it's .org or .com, but it talks about, it's got 400 pieces of research and more of how there is no significant difference between the use of technology or the use of something in a traditional classroom. And I think he's getting at the same point here, is that if you can put something together that is gaming and people enjoy it more, which he talked about, then the no significant difference in the learning is overstepped by the enjoyment of doing the gaming. And so it's another good reason to use the gaming. Thank you. Interesting pieces. Thanks for showing them.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, and Carl Cap is a wonderful resource. Once again, I'm going to share some more resources for you as well. And I saw some stuff come through in the chat. Forcing people to play a game defeats its purpose. Making learning fun is the goal in my mind, and forcing fun is no fun. I like that. That's a great call out there. And
Definitely,
again,
Jenny, in OCS in the Navy, they made us start it with games, volleyball, racquetball, tennis, any kind of sporting event. And they called that the Saturday morning mandatory fun. So they made us have mandatory fun, and it wasn't very fun.
Doesn't sound very fun. And it all goes back, even that social component in the next comment, when you know, if you have social components and people aren't really engaged in those, that's the point where it's going to go back to the strategy and how are you aligning that to your audience, and really considering that audience analysis up front is going to be imperative to, you know, getting yourself to potentially have a more effective gamification implementation. So we're going to be talking more about the strategic approach and what that looks like for gamified learning design when we start constructing that gamified learning design plan using generative AI. So you can do everything up front. But for now, we're going to move over to our next section. I can get this PowerPoint to work, right? A second. There we go. So we're going to be talking more about generative AI and how it can be used for learning. We're going to start off by talking about artificial intelligence versus generative AI. So we'll make a clear distinction there. Then we're going to talk a bit about gamification AI and what that means. And then we'll talk about the different ways that generative AI can be used as a tool in learning design. So there are a lot of different options. So artificial intelligence, or AI, is the term used for creating computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as decision-making or problem-solving. In this picture here, you'll see a robot, armed kind of thing, making a decision on its next chess move, for example. Now, generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating models that generate new content. This could include generating text, images, or music using neural networks or deep learning. It also typically, and what we're going to see today, is it needs a prompt to know what to generate and leverage the information from the neural networks and the trillions of data points they can pull from, which enables it to use that existing information to generate new content based on the prompt that's provided. So we'll see that in action today quite a bit. Okay, so to recap, share your answer in the chat, true or false. Generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating models that generate new content. Oops, I think I got the answer. Sorry about that. All artificial intelligence is generative, true or false? Trick question. Good job, everybody. Fantastic. Yes, it's false. Thank you. Sorry about that. Generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence that focuses on creating models that generates new content. Not all artificial intelligence is generative. Great job. All right, let's talk a bit about gamification, artificial intelligence. Gamification has already been recognized as a potentially powerful tactic to encourage learner engagement and motivation. Artificial intelligence can take that to another level when implemented within gamification. So that creates gamification AI. It's an integration of artificial intelligence technologies with gamification strategies. So we're going to take a moment to explore the different approaches for learning design using generative AI. So generative AI and learning design can involve using artificial intelligence to create educational content. And this can include a diverse set of materials, such as working into quizzes, simulations, interactions, all kinds of things that can be tailored to an individual's learning needs. And it's able to modify to what they need in real time. That means that in some cases, technology can adapt and evolve based on user feedback, looking at what the learners are doing and then modifying, providing personalized and dynamic learning experiences. So I'm going to show you an example of that I thought was pretty neat. It's going to slide here. Goodness gracious. Sorry about my PowerPoint today. So while this is loading, we're going to take a look at an example of MathGPT Pro. It's an AI-driven math tutor that allows users to upload math problems via photos or text for instant solutions, which is crazy. They can pull from a photograph. This was launched just last year in 2023. It rapidly went viral in more than 100 countries, and it distinguished itself with a 90% accuracy rate on AP math problems, which surpasses ChatGPT's 60% accuracy rate. So this is quite an improvement. So let me go ahead and play this for you. You can take a look at this tool. Okay, so the video was a little choppy that time, but the key features include that 90% accuracy in solving math problems and outperforming the standard LLMs, and then it has interactive tutoring. So it's not just generating answers all the time. It has that personalized content where folks can get some additional tutoring to learn more about how that answer was reached. And then they have tailored learning for personalized education. So it's kind of it's a really neat little idea for math and learning AP math. All right. Okay. All right. Now, when it comes to content creation and ideation, generative AI doesn't have to be coded into learning design. For myself, I don't know how to code, but I like to find ways to leverage it. And it can aid in that content creation component by generating text, images, and even videos based on provided output or input from the prompts. So for learning, it can, and then this technology enables efficient dynamic content creation, enhancing that learning experience by providing personalized, engaging resources. So let's go to our next section here. Now we've discussed gamified learning design and generative AI. Let's take some time to learn how to construct a gamified learning design plan using generative AI. All right, so here's where the workshop starts. So we're going to start off by choosing a 4-instance scenario. Then we're going to walk through our strategic design options. We'll draft the plan together, and then we'll debrief our approach. I'm really excited to do this with you because, as I said earlier, I am not really sure where this is going to end up and what we're going to have. So it'll be fun to explore that and see what we end up with in the end. Let's get started here. Okay, so Russ is going to, I can get this moving. Whoa, oh, sorry about that. 1 second. 2, 4. There we go. Russ is going to be putting up a poll. So you'll have a poll pop up in a moment here. And you're going to be choosing which scenario you'd like to work on. And then we'll just choose the group's favorite, and that will go from there. So option 1 is cybersecurity issues at a government department's IT division. Option 2 is workplace accidents at a government agency or building. Option 3, nursing staff at a federal hospital is struggling to provide quality patient care. Option 4 is long wait times, incorrect information, and rudeness at a government agency. And 5 is improving project management at a government agency. So go ahead, take a moment, read through, decide which you would like to work on, and we'll choose our favorite. How's it looking, Russ? Are we getting some responses in?
Jenny, yeah, we've got responses on all of them except for the workplace accidents. It looks to me like the majority of the attendees in the audience today has selected, you can see it there, Jenny, improving project management and a bustling government.
Oh, I closed out of it because it was blocking my script, but okay. Project management?
Project management.
Okay, all right. I was wondering what we'd choose today. All right, let me go to their project management side of things.
And I'll go ahead and end the poll, Jenny, if you're ready.
Yes, yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
All right, so I'll introduce you to
In
this
fact, Jenny, these were the results just there.
Oh, okay.
38% under project management.
Yeah, close second with the long wait times one and the nursing staff. Interesting. Thanks, Russ. That's cool.
Of course.
Love those tools. They're so neat. Okay. And thank you all for your input. So the results are in. We're going to go ahead and go with improving project management at a bustling government agency. So I'll go ahead and read this scenario to you so you get the full context of the situation at hand. So in a bustling government agency, the influx of new clients and projects has created a surge of demand for efficient project management. However, with the rapid expansion, the existing project management team finds themselves overwhelmed and struggling to keep up with deadlines and client expectations. As a result, projects are frequently delayed and stakeholder satisfaction is on the decline. Recognizing the urgent need to address this issue, the agency's management decides to implement a comprehensive training program focused on project management techniques and tools. So challenges we're facing right now is struggling with analyzing project timelines, client feedback, and team performance, as well as lacking proficiency in using project management software effectively to set realistic timelines and communicate the timelines effectively. So you've run a quick training needs analysis with our stakeholders, and based on those assessment findings, it becomes evident that the prioritized initial training focus will be on that bold one, where the project management team lacks proficiency in using project management software effectively to set realistic timelines and communicate the timelines effectively. So that will be our focus for the initial training event. Let me go ahead and pull up what I need to for this. We're going to move over to our workshop setup here. Computer has decided to be incredibly slow. One second. Okay. Oh, come on, computer. There we go. Okay. Are you able to see the strategic plan framework and ChatGPT? Is that showing, Russ? Yeah?
Yes,
Okay,
Jenny,
great.
it's showing now at my location.
Thank you so much, and thank you for bearing with me on my computer issues today.
Of course, of course.
Okay.
It's everyone, Chris and Erica say, yes, it's showing.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay, let me move this over and we'll get started here. All right, so we're going to move forward with this challenge, and we're going to use our strategic plan framework, and we'll be using this for our gamified design plan. And this gives you the opportunity to think about the learning event holistically from the onset of the project. Let's get overriding to me. One second. Oh, that's okay, whatever. Okay, so your framework may end up being a little bit different depending on what works best for you and your organization. But I wanted to share this structure with you since it holds up well with gamified learning design. It's a good place to start. So we're going to start. Oh, where's it going? Okay. We're going to start with phase one, the preparation plan, which is defining the goal and objectives. Then we're going to look at audience analysis, determine the learning delivery type, the target delivery date. We're going to pencil that in at the very beginning. Then that'll take us to phase two. We're going to talk about the design and iteration plan. We're going to map out a learning journey, identify the gamified elements, establish guidelines and feedback loops, and I'll tell you more about feedback loops when we get there. And then we'll talk about the plan for testing and iteration management to make sure that it's going to be meeting those learning goals effectively. Phase three will be drafting, getting ready for that implementation plan and drafting some support documentation, and also drafting a communication plan for promotion, and also confirming with Penn those target dates. You know, with everything set up, is it still feasible? Did things change? That kind of thing. And then phase four will be the reporting and evaluation plan. So at the very beginning, from the upfront of this design project, we're going to look at the evaluation of the learning itself, the whole event, and then the assessment plans. How are we assessing the effectiveness of the training? And then also any enhancement planning. What does that look like from the beginning? All right, so let me go ahead and move over. There we go. So we're going to start with our SMART goal for the first part of this phase. And what we'll do is we want this goal of the training to be specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, and time-bound. And so after meeting with your stakeholders to learn more about the issue at hand, they said that the following was the biggest challenge. So we're going to go ahead and grab that challenge for our project management scenario here. Bear with me one moment.
Carla, I wish we had our friend from the Internal Revenue Service with us today watching this, talking about rolling out project management plans in a busy government office.
Staying ahead of the curve is always the problem. Things are changing so fast wherever you work now that it's really hard to keep
true.
up. Jenny, can you tell us how
That's
are
true.
you using ChatGPT as you're doing this?
Well, I'm getting my computer to work. Yeah, so yes, that was my next thing. I just needed to get to the challenge. My computer is not cooperating. Okay, so that's okay. We will go off script there. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT because that can be a lot to build a SMART goal. It's going to take a lot of time to gather that. So what ChatGPT can do is it can get that initial draft going for you. So what we're going to do here is if I can get this to go, I'll try one more time. I'm going to go ahead and tell ChatGPT in the prompt that I would like it to draft moment. A goal for a learning event here, and I'll copy and paste our challenge in here. Almost there. Where the project management team lacks efficiency in their project management software and is unable to set realistic timelines and communicate those timelines effectively. Okay, wait for that to catch up.
You're being very, very specific.
Yes, so that was something I wanted to call out. I'll pull this up so you can see. The more specific you can be with these prompts, the better. And then that will enable ChatGPT to really understand what you're asking of it. Go ahead. This is really giving me a thing today. There we go. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to launch that. So as you can see, I've asked for a SMART goal. I've gotten really into, what the need is, who the audience is going to be, what the context of the situation, as much information as I have with me. I want to put that into the prompt, and I'm going to hit launch button and let it go. Okay. It's going to set one of those things up in a moment here. It's working on it. It's very strange. One moment here. I'll go ahead and see if I can try that one more time, since I haven't seen this before.
Colin is asking if you can do this with Copilot. I have seen a really interesting exhibit of how to use Copilot to put together PowerPoint slides. I think the person who is doing that is really an expert in it. I think we're going to ask her if she'll do a session for us maybe in August. Copilot is, advancing more. You're starting to get results now. Okay.
Yes, thankfully. I don't know why it decided to take its time there, but sorry about that. Okay, so as you're seeing here, here's a tailored learning event draft that you can get started with. And maybe it's not perfect for sure, but you can go ahead and tailor that from here, and it saves a ton of time. You have your specific pieces of improving that proficiency in the project management team by utilizing that software to set those realistic timelines and effectively communicate them. They have a measurable piece of resulting in at least a 20% increase in the accuracy of your project timelines compared to previous projects. That might be something you want to check with the business to make sure that that's realistic, but it's a place to start to work on those metrics and make those goals. And then you have this achievable piece with session conducted by certified PMPs, supplemented with hands-on practice sessions and resources for continued learning, making it relevant to the organization. So you'll want to make sure that that's accurate for you and your organization. And then you have something that's time bound. In this case, it's looking like it'll span over 4 weeks, starting in May and end May 31st. So again, looking at how realistic is that for you from a design perspective. But that's something you can pencil in. And then you have progress being assessed through regular quizzes, practice exercises, and evaluations of the team's ability to apply learning skills in real-world project scenarios. So by the end of the 4-week period, all team members should be able to demonstrate competency in setting those realistic timelines effectively and communicating them using the software. So let's say, okay, that's great. I like where this is going, but I want to be able to communicate this to stakeholders in a more summative way. So I'll go ahead and say, revise, rewrite, revise. This SMART goal into a paragraph.
I also like that you're questioning and saying to make sure that you read and make sure that what GPT is telling you is appropriate. And I think the term that a lot of people have been using is hallucinating, so that it's not hallucinating and just inventing things because it can.
Yeah, really important to check. I mean, you can go back to those math examples and note that 60% of the time it's wrong on AP math problems. So definitely want to double check to make sure it works for you and your organization, because it's, it's cool, but it's not, the solution. So here's something where you can say, oh, great, now I have a paragraph of my SMART goal. You can take it more, like, simplify it even more, you can copy and paste that into an email and edit it as needed if you want to communicate to stakeholders quickly. So that's a way to set up your SMART goal initially.
Hey, Jenny.
So, yes.
One of our guests has a raised hand. Do you mind if I promote her to audio transmission? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alicia, I just promoted you to allow your microphone to be active.
That was an error. My apologies.
Okay. Well, nice to hear you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jenny.
Okay. Okay, no problem. And if you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand, put them in the chat, and I'll be looking through that as much as I can. All right, so for our next piece, we have our SMART goal, which is great. And then we're going to move to our action-based objectives. Let me go ahead and get to this piece here. Eventually. So when I say action-based objectives, it's answering that question of, okay, we have our SMART goal, but what does the learner need to do to reach those that goal? What objectives do they need to make? And there are different ways of writing objectives that you'll see. So I'm going to show you a couple of things here with chat. Okay, so let's say I have my SMART goal, and what's really cool about this is you can continue to build, and then chat will just take the context of the prompts that you've given it so far and help you build out your plan. So you can draft, all in one sitting, which is just so nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and say draft. Come on, little computer. Learning objectives for a training on this SMART goal. A very clear directive there. All right, I hit send that message. Thank you. Okay, we have 8 objectives instantly, which is great. So again, you're going to want to look at this. You're going to want to read through these. Now, something I want to point out about learning objectives is keeping, especially with gamified learning, keep the end in mind. How are you going to measure this? So in this case, when you look at objectives like understand, comprehend, know at the beginning of these sentences, you could theoretically measure that by assessment, but it can be kind of hard to truly measure understanding and knowledge. So what I'd like to do is make these more action-based. And I think 8 objectives is kind of a lot for us today. So I'm going to say rewrite apologies for the slow typing here. It's catching up to me. So there are, I don't know, 4 objectives, 4 action-based objectives.
People are asking about what would happen if you based the objectives on Bloom. Want to add that?
Sure, that's great.
See what it does.
Yes. Yes, let me add that in. That's great. Thank you. Based on use text on it. Okay, that one typed just fine. You all are good luck. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say, when I say action-based, if you're not familiar with action mapping, go ahead and look up Kathy Moore. Fantastic resource for looking at some action-based objectives and writing those. And it really aligns nicely with gamification design and games-based learning. Okay, so there we go. Now we have 4. We have apply, analyze, create, and evaluate. We have some nice utilize the project management software to input project tasks. That's something we can definitely observe in a learning event. We can analyze by evaluating project requirements and scope to identify potential risks and uncertainties. We can create by develop effective communication strategies for conveying project timelines to stakeholders. Clear, concise language, visual aids, persuasive techniques. That's really interesting. And evaluate, assess the accuracy and effectiveness of project timelines generated using the software, identifying areas for improvement, and implementing adjustments as necessary to optimize that project planning execution. Great suggestion, you guys. Really, really nice. Okay, let's see here. Oh, okay, so, all right. So that's our objectives. For the sake of time, we're going to move forward, but I'm going to start asking you for your own ideas on prompts. Especially coming up next. And Carla and Russ, if you could help me with the chat, that would be great. This typing is so painfully slow.
Lots of
So the
chats,
next thing
Jenny.
we're going to do.
Lots of them.
Oh, good.
And
Good. Okay.
the good thing about it
Everyone's
is that I noticed that our guests are talking with each other and they're collaborating with each other, which is nice to see.
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, and that's always great. I'm so glad we can set up a place where you can start networking right away. Great. So we have a really nice SMART goal. We have some objectives that are drafted. Now we're going to talk about the learners and analyzing the learners. So in gamification, oftentimes you'll see learner personas. So I can get this thing to go. I need it to. No, it's stuck. Okay, in gamification, you're going to see learner personas quite a bit. Learner persona essentially is a summary of the middle of the curve. It's a representation of the demographic of the learners. It captures their characteristics, their preferences, the learning environments, maybe their general motivations as a group. You heard Carl Kapp kind of talking about, well, with engineers, I don't do this. And with this audience, this kind of audience, I kind of go this way. So that's where that learner persona can come in really handy when it comes to that gamification design planning. Okay. So thinking about this learner audience, and we're going to ask ChatGPT to draft a learner persona for us. What do we want to include? I'm going to say draft a learner persona for this training eventually. What are some things that that you were thinking about for project managers? What kind of motivations do you think that they would have? Would it be a collaborative training? Would it be maybe more asynchronous group? What do you think? What are some prompts that you would draft? So let's see what ideas come up in the chat. You'll have time because it takes me a moment to do this. Anything coming through? It's okay if it's not yet.
Yeah. I want to say some more about what you're asking them to create. I don't really see anything in the chat.
That's okay.
now.
That's okay. So what we'll do is we'll start with just draft a learner persona for this training. And we'll look at the initial draft together. And we'll see if we want to add anything or have it revised to meet our needs. Or if we want to explore revision ideas, that's okay too. So this is really kind of a cool thing that it can do. If I go here, here's a learner persona for the training. Based on our SMART goals and the objectives that were identified so far, we have someone named Sarah Thompson, just to put a name on the learner persona. Their role is project manager, because that's going to mostly be who this training goes out to for sure. She's been working for a mid-sized technology company for the past 5 years. So that would be maybe the average age of your learner audience. She has several professional certifications. She's responsible for overseeing multiple projects simultaneously. She finds it challenging to set realistic timelines and communicate effectively to stakeholders, but she's highly motivated to enhance her skills in project management. So she's motivated, she wants to improve collaboration with her team and ensure successful completion of projects within the budget and on schedule. She likes hands-on interactive learning experience that provide practical insights and actionable strategies that she can directly apply to her projects. So here's her goals and expectations, challenges that she faces, and preferred learning style, or I would say learning approach in some ways, just depending on what you prefer there. So anything else? Maybe do we want to add something about maybe this is a more senior level group, or maybe it's more entry level group, or anything else that you notice about project management teams that isn't identified here?
Do you want the
If not,
project
that's-
management team, or do you want the people who will be participating in the gaming?
The people who will be participating in the gaming who are going to be project management learners.
Both.
Both.
Melinda has put an interesting thing into the chat, and she talks about all the different databases and data sets that she's able to use. The age of the people, how long they've been with it, and so forth. So how long they've been with the agency. So there's some interesting things that could go into that if you've got a large data set that really defines your people. I mean, if you've got API or XAPI, you probably have pretty much every agency would have a lot of information about their people that could be put into this, and it could be segmented to just the people who would be taking this particular training.
Yeah, and that's the goal of this, is if you do have those data sets, you can leverage those to create your learner persona. And you can start here with this draft and modify it as needed to make sure it's completely aligned to your organization based on the data sets you have. So it'll hit that large population with the majority of the learners. Of course, there's always outliers to every curve, but this is trying to hit the majority of the demographic of learners here. And it's really neat that ChatGPT can take the context of the SMART goal and the objectives that have been set up and create this learner persona. All right. Thanks, Melinda, for sharing that. Okay. All right. So next thing we're going to do is consider the delivery plan, and ChatGPT can help you along with that too. So let's say, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna say, okay, I'm not sure where I want to go. I'm not sure if I want trainers to do this. I'm not sure if I want it to be asynchronous yet. What does that look like? I want to ideate a little bit more. I can say, provide two, just for the sake of time, I'll say two learning delivery plans for this training event. Yes, we're using a generic software program just to make it nice and easy today. Yes, Chris, you're ahead of me there. So here we're looking at two different learning plans, which is really great because even if you're just doing other learning plans outside of gamification, this can come in handy. And here we have a workshop series that it's just generated for that lasts for 4 weeks based on our SMART goal that it initially set. So you have the introduction to project management software, setting realistic timelines in week 2 with case studies. And then week 3 is effective communication strategies and role-playing exercises. Week 4, advanced features and tips, exploration of advanced features and tips for that software with Q&A and wrap up. And then the second option here is a blended learning approach with online modules, virtual instructor-led sessions, hands-on workshops, office hours, and support. So I'm going to ask all of you, which of the two options would you prefer, option 1 or option 2? And then we're going to gamify it. Option 1 or option 2? You have blended learning or the workshop series.
Hey, Jenny, this is Colin May. I have just a quick question for you. In terms of the audience analysis and the learner persona, do you do that generally after you've defined the objectives, or does it really matter? I'm just curious what your thoughts are in terms of that progression, which could come first, or does it matter? Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I would say, when the initial training need comes up, it'll be, hey, this group of people is really struggling with X, and they work in, and then you'll start getting background in those conversations of your learner audience right away. So that's something you can start jotting down right away. And then, investigating that need, creating that SMART goal. And then I think that would be the phase 1 of the audience analysis, and the phase 2 would be looking at that population more closely after the goal and objectives have been drafted to really make sure you're grasping everything with the audience needs. And it might take some back and forth and iteration on the objectives there, depending on what you find with the audience. If there's something surprising, or maybe there's a tech issue with the software that needs to be addressed first. So it's kind of I guess, simultaneous, if that helps.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Thanks.
Okay, good. Good. My coffee's wearing off, so I'm not sure. Everything's clear, so thank you. Okay, so let's see here. Looks like blended learning is our popular option here. So we're going to say, okay, so blended learning approach. Now I'm going to ask, rewrite this, let me see, rewrite option 2. In a gamified format. Now this is just for ideation. It's that first draft to get you thinking and brainstorming on the direction and what's going to work best with your organization. So let's see, we're doing option 2. Okay, so we have some fun. I love these names it just comes up with. So we have it broken up into 4 modules now. Unlocking the software realm. It becomes a quest where the participants will embark on a virtual journey to unlock secrets of project management software. You'll find as you learn more about gamification, if you have a curious audience, unlocking is a really exciting thing. So that's something that will be really important to test with a focus group, but this is kind of a neat idea. And then there's an interactive tutorial with engaging online modules to guide participants through the basics of project management software. And there'll be earning experience points for completing quizzes and challenges. And then module 2 will be mastering the timelines. So that's another quest where they'll receive their next challenge to conquer the art of setting realistic timelines. And we have this time warp challenge, which will be a virtual simulation to immerse participants in real world scenarios where they'll have the opportunity to navigate through time warps, estimating task durations, and managing dependencies to reach that project finish line. So as you're going back, remembering what Carl Kapp had said to me, the engineering group, he wouldn't go often with the creative side of things, and maybe with some engineering groups I think would be totally excited to do creative stuff. But let's say you have a more artistic group, you could get some sci-fi stuff going with the time warps, or if you have a more professionalized, like just needed to be nice and clean for and branded to your organization, you can have some feedback loops and feedback that comes to them that's just more standard. Hey, you've reached a time warp, just a notification. So it can, the variance of creativity will be totally up to you here, and you can take this and run with it as you like. The next module is Communication Conquest, where it's another quest, and it's time to conquer the realm of effective communication. You have a tower defense team battle. So this is collaborative, where participants join forces in a tower defense game where their effective communication is key to coordinating defenses and repelling attacks. Success earns them valuable communication artifacts to use stakeholder interactions. And then lastly is Mastery Unleashed, where they have that final showdown. It's the boss of the game, as it were, where they'll face the ultimate challenge of mastering advanced features of project management software. And they have that boss battle in a virtual arena where they confront a formidable project management obstacles using advanced features and tips throughout the journey. And with teamwork and strategy, they defeat the final boss and emerge victorious. So it's bringing all of that together and pulling in collaboration to help with their communication skills, but also allowing them to really get to know their software in a fun way with quests and battles and things like that. So that's one option. But let's say, what's another, I think I'm going to ask it to do something more puzzle-based, but is there something else that comes to mind? I could actually, if we want to remove quests, is there something else that comes to mind game-wise, maybe a game style that we want to play with? Yes. It could be a quest, it could be a journey, it could be a different theme. Anything comes to mind?
Let me ask you this in a different way, Jenny. So based upon what you're seeing here, do you think that this is a realistic approach? Is it giving you answers and workable solutions?
This is for yes, and it's that initial ideation. So it's just going to be that initial planning phase. This isn't something that has to be the end all be all. Don't let it get there. This is just to get you to start thinking and ideating about gamified elements. And especially if you haven't worked in gamification all that often, this is something where you can build familiarity and explore being creative with a tool that'll help you to see what's out there. Does that help?
Yeah, but essentially you're saying that what it's giving you is realistic. It is appropriate. Yeah. It is useful.
Yes, it can be useful. Again, it's going to go back to the planning of the iterations and prototyping to see how impactful it will be for your audience. But that'll be in our next delivery phase that we're going to plan out in the second year.
Okay, well, I've got your attention. I just wanted to say you've got about 30 minutes left in the workshop. So
okay.
Just in case you need to change any of your plans.
Okay, for time's sake, I think I'll move through, but thank you all for adding some really great ideas in there. And that's something you can take with you if it comes to mind, like, oh, I don't really think Quest is going to work for this group. Maybe we want to, I saw some construction ideas for building, and maybe something that's tied more realistically to your organization that you could make into a scenario. That's another option as well. So thank you all. Okay. go ahead and go to the next piece. So that was phase one. It's a heavy lift on the preparation plan. So we identified our SMART goal and objectives, the audience analysis, we determined the learning delivery type and the target delivery date with that 4-week plan. And then we're going to look at phase two, the design and iteration plan. We're going to map out a learning journey where we're going to identify gamified elements and establish guidelines and feedback loops. I'll tell you about those in a moment, and plan our testing and iteration management. So let's go ahead and move forward. So a learner journey is really important for a gamified, especially game-based system, where it includes rules and guidelines. It's the end-to-end experience of the learner. So that is where I'm going to go over here to ChatGPT and show you an example, and we'll talk about it. So draft a learner journey. Of this gamified learning event. Okay, so what this is going to do now is create that journey. So you have an idea of what the learner is going to be experiencing from beginning to end. Starting with step one, they'll embark on the quest. They'll get an invite to unlock the secrets of project management. They'll then move to step two. They're going to create avatars in this case. This is something where maybe it doesn't work for you, maybe it does, and you can modify as needed. But this is, again, just that ideation phase and that initial planning. And then you form alliances with fellow participants. Step two, you master the basics, diving into the first module of unlocking the software realm, navigating through interactive tutorials and quizzes, getting earning experience points that levels up their avatars, explores basic features of project management software, such as task creation and dependency management, earning rewards for completing different quests and challenges, and then conquering the challenges. So mastering the timelines, where participants will face that time warp challenge. They must estimate the task durations and manage dependencies to navigate through obstacles, reach realistic project milestones, and collaborate with guild members, sharing strategies and tips to overcome the challenges and earn bonus experience points. But then you have step four, they're communicating with clarity. So moving to that third module, they'll have a communication conquest, where they engage in that tower defense team battle, and effective communication will be the key to repelling attacks by coordinating defenses. They'll practice conveying project timelines to stakeholders using clear and persuasive communication techniques and earning valuable communication artifacts and leveling up their communication skills. And then they'll unleash their mastery with that final module, where they can confront the ultimate challenge, mastering advanced features of project management software. If you have a group of learners that are big on achievement and credentialing, a mastering component is a very valuable piece that you can implement into your gamification strategy. So they'll join forces again. They'll have that collaborative component, using advanced features and tips throughout the journey to defeat that formidable project management obstacle and emerge victorious. And at the very end, we'll be celebrating success. They'll gather for celebration. They'll showcase their achievements. They'll receive accolades, and they'll celebrate their newfound mastery of project management software. And they'll have the ability to unlock special rewards, badges, and avatars as they commemorate their journey and share their experiences with guild members and peers. So that's a full journey that it has drafted in seconds. And that's something, again, if you're wanting to take it a different flavor as you build it out more, and you want to back up and say, hey, can we make this a little bit more in a office environment rather than a medieval quest or, you know, construction. It will take that and refine it as needed. So that is the learner journey. And now we're going to talk about the gamified elements that we're going to be placing in here. So when I go through here, I'm seeing some gamified elements. We have quests, unlocking, there's collaborations, avatars. Those are all elements and they're all throughout here. So let's say I want to change it up a little bit. I'll say revise this learner journey to include maybe more competition. And again, that'll go back to your audience analysis. I just want to show you how this is capable of changing on a dime. Turning on a dime, however you want to say that. As you can see, it's going into, things have changed a bit. We have entering an arena, battling for the basics, dueling dependencies, and it's starting to explore with other game elements here and different ways of approaching the same objectives and that same SMART goal. So again, really fantastic tool for ideation that you can play with and continue to iterate and prototype with and use this as that initial piece to get ideas going. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to keep moving because it is just speeding away from me today. Oh, and one quick thing. When you're looking at gamification elements, you're like, oh, there's a lot of them, and I'm not sure where to start with this. I do recommend a couple of pieces. Yukai Chow. So, here, if I can put that in the chat. Is that reference? Yukai Chow does some excellent things with talking about psychological motivators for different, oh my goodness. Trying to switch the chat over to everyone. There we go. Yukai Chow and Dr. Jonathan Peters with Sententia Gamification. Both of them have books that are available on Amazon for that are focused on gamification elements and matching those to different learner personas and different motivations and you know, giving you some ideas and some referencing to all of the gamification elements that are out there, or the ones we're aware of so far. There's more that people are developing every day, but these are really two really great resources to get started with if you want to really dive into gamification elements and that selection process to make sure that it's matching the motivations of your audience. Okay.
We've had Dr. Peters on this.
All right, so next thing we're going to do, or have this ChatGPT help us with, is establish. Oh, sorry, it broke up. What did you say?
I was just saying.
Sorry, it broke up for me.
Yeah, I was just saying Dr. Peters has done several webinars for FGDLA. He's really been a wonderful resource for us as well.
He has, yeah, and you can watch recordings of those on our FGDLA.us site if you're curious and would rather watch something than read a book. I totally understand. Sometimes I'll read it out myself, so I get that. But yeah, so he's a really great place to start when you're learning more about gamification. You want to get your mind around it and get started. Another thing you can do, and when you have your learner journey set up, you have some gamification elements identified that you want to use, the next thing to really look for and make sure that you're including are feedback loops. And feedback loops are, they are taking the action of a learner and giving them feedback for their action. So it's that loop. And then the learner understands, hey, I did a great job, or hey, I need to do something different. And then that changes their output. So in a game, you'll see feedback loops all over the place. When it comes to, like, if you ever played Mario Super Brothers, for example, immediately from the start of the game, you can only run one way. You can only go like one way down the screen. If you go the other way, you'll just hit a wall. You'll just keep running into it. And then you'll learn about cliffs and how you have to jump. So those feedback loops tell you where the performance items need to change as a player. Oh, I need to hit the jump button. Oh, I need to only move to the right. So those kinds of things. And this is helpful in learning as well, especially when guiding the learner to navigation of a system in this case, or effective communication. Those feedback loops need to be included into the system of that gamified experience. So let me say, revise the learner. The learner journey to include feedback loops. So again, just being really directive, but building off of what we have before, so we can keep it simple still. Let me watch that. Okay, so the feedback loops are added into this learner journey here. As you can see, right at the step one, they'll enter the arena, they'll receive information here, embark on the journey, just side. Oh, I think this is just entering, sorry. So battling for the basics, they'll have that, that's the first module. Okay, I see what it's doing. After completing the challenge, they'll receive immediate feedback on their performance, highlighting areas of strength and areas for improvement. And the dueling dependencies, they'll, following each duel, receive feedback from both peers and instructors, providing insights on their strategic decisions, offering suggestions for refinement. And the clash of the communications. They'll receive feedback from stakeholders evaluating their clarity, persuasiveness, and effectiveness of their communication efforts. Very pointed feedback that'll help a learner to really guide their journey. And then also in the boss battles, they'll receive real-time feedback on their performance, allowing them to adjust their strategies and tactics to overcome obstacles and secure victory. So that's just something, oh, and here's a comprehensive feedback at the end to summarize their overall performance throughout the journey as well. So it automatically adds in those feedback loops. And again, this might be something you want to make some modifications to. And if you wanted to have them have real-time feedback throughout from the beginning, you can ask it to revise to meet that need and explore what that looks like. Okay, so let me go ahead and go to the next slide here. All right, so now we're going to look at the iteration plan. So we have quite a few things to iterate on and prototype here with each of these modules. So it's going to be important for you to identify what's going to be available and what works for your organization. If you're really lucky, you'll be able to prototype and test with a small group of the actual learners. In a lot of cases, that won't be available. So maybe your internal team could do some testing, or maybe stakeholders that are very familiar with the learner group. So whatever's available, you'll want to see who can help you with testing, and then also testing yourself for quality, just to make sure things aren't breaking as soon as you launch them, of course. So when I'm thinking about what does that look like in a term, a testing plan, I'll be able to use ChatGPT once again to ideate on a testing plan. So let's see here. Provide, and I'm just going to do it for one of the modules. A prototyping plan for module 2. And this is something different designers do different things in gamification. Some designers take little pieces, break it up, prototype each small piece, and then see how it works together as a system. Other designers prefer to do the whole thing and test it all at once. So it's going to be subjective to what works best for you in your group. In this case, we're going to do like a small one of the modules. And here is prototype real-time multiplayer simulations where participants must manage dependencies and race against the clock to complete tasks, fostering collaboration and competition. So looking again at those specific learning outcomes, comparing that to what you have drafted, make sure that that works. Then designing the game mechanics, developing the prototype environment. So that could be on an actual game development tool. It could be on PowerPoint. I would say the quicker that you can rapidly produce something, the better. The low budget prototyping is the best way to go because then you can scrap it really easily. You don't put your heart into it. It's just an experiment. So keep that in mind when reading through these and modify as needed. And you can tell ChatGPT, I just have PowerPoint. So it'll modify that as needed. So you can start continuing to ideate your testing. And this goes through the testing and iteration, what that looks like, what that plan will be, implementing feedback, how that looks, and then finalizing that prototype based on feedback and testing results. Design for MS project. Sure, let's see. Let's see on a specific software. Provide. Revise the testing plan for learners. Oops. Who are working in this project. All right, so here it is. It's refined to MS Project, a very popular project management tool. And this is something kind of neat. So you can get an idea, again, aligning it to your organization. Here's an example of that. Okay, we only have MS Project. We don't have Smartsheet. We don't have, whatever else is out there. It's not coming to mind. But yeah, so this is something that you can have ChatGPT explore with you here. And it's
Jenny, is that
accordingly.
MS Microsoft Project Management?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes. Acronyms. That's an example there. And then that's, again, this is why this is such, it's limitless and you can continue to build and ask more questions and to get more ideas and stuff. So this is a great tool for that. Okay. So that's our testing plan. That brings us to phase 3, our implementation plan, where we're going to look at support documentation, drafting, communication, and confirming that target date. So this is an as-needed thing. I've noticed that sometimes people want support documentation to help navigate a new gamified system or or maybe it's a new project management tool altogether and they need some process documentation. And sometimes, you know, the training ends up unfortunately taking on the process writing as well. But in this case, ChatGPT can help with that. So what I'm going to do is make this more about navigating the learning, especially with all of the quests and battles that it'll be doing. So I'm going to ask it to provide support. Oh, let me see. Documentation draft for the learners who are new to gamified learning. And again, I'm asking for the support documentation draft and who it's going to be going to, because it'll provide support documentation draft to stakeholders. If you need to explain what your learning is, it'll draft to other instructional designers if you're briefing them on what you've done. So just specifying where that's going to go is really important. So this is kind of cool where this is a letter. Sometimes it does just steps. It kind of has a mind of its own, not to be creepy about that, but there are it drafts some really great information here. So welcome to the gamified learning experience. We're excited to embark on this journey with you. It identifies what gamified learning is, where to get started, engaging in the activities, and that's calling out some of your game elements that are used. We have quests and challenges, collaboration with your guild, and tracking progress. And then receiving feedback and support, going back to those feedback loops and support resources. And then earning rewards, celebrating milestones, and a conclusion. So a really nice little email that can go out to learners who may be new to the system and not quite sure how to dive in there. So this is just an example of a support documentation piece. It is an as needed thing, depending on what your organization needs are. Okay. So another thing is the promotion and learning launch. That's another thing you can add to ChatGPT. Draft a promotional email for this learning event.
Jenny, while you're doing that, you're coming up with, we're going to probably start losing people here in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm wondering if what we might do is this, maybe stop for a moment, explain what the optional plan is so for certification, and then come back and we can stay on after our regular closing time so that you can finish the entire presentation and we can have that as part of the video so everybody could continue to watch that. People who want to stay could stay, but those who have to leave would then still be able to participate and do the certification. Would that work for you, or is that too much to ask?
No, absolutely. So I can talk through the certification due to my technical difficulties right now, but Russ is going to be sharing in the chat a PowerPoint. Oh, of course it comes up as I say that, where, let's see if it can come up as I'm talking. It's a PowerPoint where you're going to go through and put what we've learned today to practice for yourself. And you can upload a scenario, use a scenario that we were looking at today, and that'll be provided in this deck Or you can create your own scenario if you want to start practicing with your organization and alignment there. And let's see if it'll go to the next slide, hopefully. And what you'll be doing is you can select the options here. I know it's really small. And then you can use ChatGPT to copy and paste from ChatGPT into the PowerPoint. If you'd rather copy and paste into a Word document, or you have another thing that you like with Google Docs, whatever it is, that's fine. But yeah, just go ahead and use these prompts on each of these pages. So you'll present a scenario. You can even have ChatGPT create fake scenarios as well. That's something to play with. Then you're going to put in a learning SMART goal. So you'll be able to practice writing prompts for that. Then those actionable, action-based objectives. Then an audience analysis, that learner persona. Then we'll look at a learning journey. And then identifying the gamified elements. And that will be the last piece. So this won't be the whole design plan, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to go through and, you know, get some practice in with ChatGPT and have a chance to add this to your portfolio. And then when you get to the last page here, you'll have my email, which is jvarrichio@fgdla.us. And you can send your document, PowerPoint, Google Doc, whatever it is that you prefer, to me, and I'll take a look at that. And you just have to complete it, and I'll send you a certification just to certify that you've put your knowledge to the test and practiced. And yeah, so that's
Seems fun.
Yeah, good. Glad to hear that.
And Jenny, I have dropped that presentation into the chat. It's there. It's there a couple times.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. And I do it. I know it's a little small, so go ahead and download it onto your computer. My computer is just about to. I need to get a new one. So I think some people are not seeing it in the chat yet, Russ, but
it
loading.
shows completed.
Okay. Yeah, it may take a moment to load on your computers too.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any questions on the certification assignment? How much time do you have?
Got about 5 minutes left, but you know, we can, I said we can stay on and we'll keep on recording. And so you can finish the entire presentation, and those who have to leave then could come back, and we'll have the recording archived on fgdla.us.
Yeah.
And people can look at the rest of it as well as finish if they want to go through the certification, and send that in to you for your review.
Okay, sounds good. And if you do have any trouble seeing it or downloading it, just email me at that email I just put in the chat, and I'll send that over to you. No problem.
It's perfect.
And then let's say I'll give you 2 months to do this, because I know things are really busy. So,
as fast as ChatGPT is, oh my goodness, you should have made it 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes. Let's do a race. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? All right, looks good. I'm going to continue forward if that works.
And Jenny,
I just wanted to verify I was able to download the slides and open them, so all of you should be able to if everything is working properly on your computer.
Yes. Yep. Hard part is developing the prompts. Yep. Have fun. It'll be it'll be an adventure. But that's the best part, is you learn more how to work with it. And that's why I'm hoping you take this on, because it's a great experience piece. Okay. No worries. If it's not showing up in the chat, just go up to my email me, and I'll send a copy to you. No problem.
Okay. And Russ,
All right.
Russ, I'm seeing a time countdown in the upper right-hand corner. Do we need to extend our time limit here, or?
We are okay with our time, Carla.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to lose the recording and lose everybody.
No,
Okay.
we're not.
Okay, so let's return to our regularly scheduled programming. Jenny, go ahead.
Thanks,
Complete.
Carla. Sorry about
complete your
the
day.
longevity. Okay, so this is our, while we were working on that, ChatGPT was hard at work developing a draft for a promotion and learning launch. This is a great communication tool to get people excited about an upcoming training event that's coming their way, especially if they're really feeling like they're struggling. This can be like kind of a breath of fresh air as far as training goes. So we have the subject line here. I don't know if you want to use the emoticons, but you can. It's just a suggestion, an idea. And then kind of has a fun tagline. Are you ready to embark on an epic learning journey like never before? So it goes into what it is, what's gamified learning, your adventure awaits. So you'll dive into a world of quests, challenges, and collaboration. You'll create an avatar, complete quests, tackle challenges, receive personalized feedback, and celebrate your achievements. How to get started, so some directions there, and then a special offer if you want to do a promotional piece. So lots of ideas here, and then you can do a save the date, maybe an existing launch event. So lots of cool things to bring to stakeholders and think about, how do we want to communicate this to get everyone really excited about training, which can be a challenge sometimes. So this is a great tool to ideate there as well. All right. So, oh, and I want to confirm that target date. So let's say, we have all this stuff planned out here. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to provide a design and development target date for this training event, or timeline, I'm going to say. This is another great project management tool for your design and development plan to make sure that the time that's needed to create something like this is reasonable. So in this case, it's giving you, let's see, 8 weeks of development time. And that's something that you'll want to take back to your stakeholders and also consider for yourself and your design team if it's reasonable. But it's something that you can at least get that quick draft and refine as needed for yourself. So I just want to show you that really cool target date generation there. Okay, now moving to the evaluation and assessment plan. So planning for reporting and evaluation, that's another thing we can add to ChatGPT. So provide a draft for evaluating the, say, effectiveness of this training event. Keep it general for now, just for the sake of time. And here is an evaluation form draft. It can also create full plans for evaluation and assessment. So this is just a look at some pieces here. I know, Carla, you're the evaluation expert, but this is wanted to see what you thought here with your expertise in this area.
What I was thinking is you'd revise the prompt to say, make sure that we include the evaluation as a component of the entire event. And so each of your prompts could include that as well, but this is doing a pretty good job of picking up on it. I don't like doing evaluations only at the end of something. If you wait to the end to do the evaluation, that means that you've missed many, 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 many opportunities to do a formative fix. So if you find that something isn't working, then you're able to fix it. And then if you keep doing that, by the time you get to the end of something, it's in much better shape than it was when you just did the planning to begin with. But I mean, largely that's long-term evaluation, but you can still do it in short terms for modules of this nature.
That's great. Okay. That's excellent points. We'll go ahead, have that revision here. It comes through. And while that's thinking, yes, the evaluation can be based on Kirkpatrick as well. Okay.
If you're going to use Kirkpatrick, you definitely want to use the third and fourth levels, not 1 and 2.
Yes.
At least if something as extensive as what you're putting together here. I mean, if you're doing a 30-minute training, maybe 1 and 2 would be sufficient.
Okay, so for longer trainings, 3 and 4 is important.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to look at what people have learned, and Kirkpatrick is not the only evaluation plan in the world. It's like ADDIE is not the only instructional design plan in the world. You know, there's so many options, and particularly for distance learning, so many different things that we're able to do online that maybe aren't done face-to-face. Yeah, Chris has got a good point. Micro rewards in the forms of badges and points for success are also a running estimate of evaluations. Good point. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, great call out. Awesome. And this is again, going back to Valerie. It's revising according to implement those levels 3 and 4. And again, it may not be exactly what you're hoping for, so you can continue to work with it and revise your prompts. A lot of times I find if I continue to reiterate on my prompts, I get what I need, but you can also copy and paste it and make it your own, depending on what you're looking for. But there is a lot of opportunity here to start thinking about how you want to evaluate that training, as Carla said, throughout from the beginning. So having that at the forefront of your training plan will be really important. Okay.
Yeah, and what ChatGPT is giving you here are just the really basic ideas about how to do an evaluation. Yes, no, essentially Likert scales. I do like the fact that it's giving you a modified Likert scale on a 1 to 4. You should never use 1 to 5 because 3 is a sitting position and it gives you absolutely no answer, not even worth asking the question. But the other thing that you could do if you were going to modify these prompts was to ask it to include scenario-based learning. How do people are actually applying the information, you know, something where they're actually writing out how they're applying it.
Yes, that's great. Awesome. Thanks, Carla. Okay. So we've made it through our entire strategic design plan today using ChatGPT. We created something really incredible. And again, you saw how ChatGPT continues to just continue to build off the context of each prompt. And it can really help you to build something like a design plan, gamified design plan, micro learning design plan, whatever you're doing. This can be a really great tool. So I just want to ask, for those of you that are still here, what did you find most helpful or interesting in this process? And is there anything that you would do differently in your organization?
Let me just kick it off by saying you did an 8-week or some length of program, designed the entire thing in 2 hours.
Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it really is just phenomenal. And we've already become so accustomed to how fast, these AI programs will work for us. We're getting a little, jaded about the whole thing, but everything that you did within 2 hours, you actually covered gamification and talked about it, trained us on all of that, and then probably in an hour and a half actually put all of this together. And I think if your computer had been running any faster, it might have been an hour, right? So
it would have been. Yeah, I've tested this so many times.
I don't know what's wrong with your computer today. It usually works better than that. So okay. All right, you got some comments. You want to look at them, Jenny, or want me to read them to you? I appreciate the framework and the examples. Can't wait to dive into the scenario. The live demonstration was great. I agree, Elizabeth, that really very, very useful to see how you're able to put it all together at one point. Jesse says, I've never used ChatGPT, so this was very interesting to me. Valerie, I learned so much in 2 hours. So, I think what we were, you wanted to do for this and what, as program, what we wanted to do for FGDLA was to really cover and show how to use AI for gamification. And I think this is an excellent example.
Yes, no coding required. So that's a benefit. I have up on the screen some ethical considerations. There is a copy of this PowerPoint as well if you want to watch the video, but they do go through each of these. And typically each organization has a governance. This is an entire field. So when you go into AI, if you're using ChatGPT, please check with your organization first to see what the rules and regulations are for your groups. I know where I work, there's a lot of HIPAA because I'm in healthcare. So just, see what works for you. Make sure you look into that before you dive into using AI for your design. With that,
Chris is saying it's interesting to compare the responses from different AI programs and bots. I think you're right. I mean, they're all coming at us at different ways. Copilot seems to be pretty interesting to use, in what is able to generate as well. So we'll work on getting that program together. Any questions for Jenny at this point? Okay. Russ, you want to bring Chris on, open up the microphone?
Is there a request to do that, Carla?
No, there's no request, but he was talking about different Gemini as a different approach to it.
Yeah, yes, of course. Yes. Here we go for Chris. Okay.
Hey, Chris, you want to come off mute and talk about Gemini a little bit?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in using all the different generative AI bots that are out there, Google seems to, and I just verbed, the word into it here, but it seems to know what I'm looking for a little bit better without me having to go in and make it rephrase or redo with more specificity in my prompts. And then actually it'll help me with different courses of action. So With ChatGPT, it seems a little bit more naive, I think, than in its learning than um, because I think some of the stuff that we've seen using the ChatGPT, you could actually do a web search on and get some of the same frameworks. Where Google Gemini, and again, I'm not promoting anything one way or the other, actually does an analysis for you and a good synthesis before it spouts off a good, a response. So in my mind, I tend to be using the Gemini a lot more than either the Bing or the Chat GPT, even though they might be based off the same engines. Over.
That's great to know. Yeah, and I think it's so valuable to explore what's out there, both in gamification and in artificial intelligence to see, what's the ease of use on stuff, what's a better user experience, all of that. So thanks for sharing, Chris. All right, Carla, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, Chris, we did some comparison things back in, I think it was October and November of 2023 when we did the AI certification 4-hour workshop. So you might go back and look at those, although by this point, I'm sure they're already out of date. It's, been all of 4 months, so everything has changed.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I was actually a part of that, so that's what triggered me to do some comparisons to begin with.
Yeah, I think it's really worthwhile to do it, and it depends on what you're trying to do as well. So it's an important concept. Let's see, there was a question in here about your actual stack of slides, not the ones for certification. Are we able to send those out, Jenny?
Yeah, I think they're in the chat, and then also Russ and I are looking at maybe getting on the website as well in a PDF format because it's a huge file.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll post it with the video, with the recording. We can do that. So Russ, can you facilitate that, please? Paul, we're so glad you were here today. Thank you so much for being with us. Erica, so glad to see that you were able to join today. And to all of you, thank you for being with us today. Jenny, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for putting this together. I know it's been a really busy period in your life, and it's so nice that you were able to take the time to do it. Paul, do you want to say something?
Just want to say thank you very much. This was great to be the first session to join, and what an interesting, great topic. Great to see ChatGPT and those, generative AIs being used in such great ways. Very cool.
It is. And thanks for being with us. All right, you all. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. If you are still with us and are interested in joining FGDLA, go to our website. It's fgdla.us. Give us a couple of days. The slides and the video recording will be up there, and it's under the webinars. And all of our webinars are posted there for the last several years. So we're really glad that you were able to be here with us. And that concludes the webinar for today. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, Paul, and everyone.
Night. That was great.